The morning sun rose over New Incheon Colony like any other day. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, and the fields stretched endlessly in every direction. 8-year-old Doyun ran through the tall grass near his home, his laughter echoing across the quiet landscape. His friend Kyuri, only 7 years old, chased after him with a bright smile on her face. They were collecting smooth stones from the stream, adding them to their growing collection of treasures. New Incheon was a farming world, peaceful and far from the troubles of the galaxy. The colony had been established 40 years ago, and now 340,000 people called it home. Most families lived in small houses surrounded by gardens and fields. The colonists grew food in massive greenhouses and sent it to other human settlements. Life was simple here, and people liked it that way. Doyun's mother, Bora, watched from the porch of their home. She smiled as her son played, feeling grateful for the peace they had found here. Her husband was working in the fields nearby, checking on the crop growth. Everything felt normal. Everything felt safe. Far above the planet in the darkness of space, something changed. A fleet of ships appeared without warning. They were massive dark vessels covered in sharp angles and glowing red lights. These were Valorian Imperial warships, belonging to one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. The Valorians controlled 47,000 star systems and believed they owned whatever they wanted. War Prefect Zenthor commanded the fleet from his enormous flagship. He sat on his command throne looking at the peaceful planet below with cold eyes. To him, New Incheon was nothing special, just another weak human colony to be taken. The planet had valuable minerals underground, and the Valorians wanted them. They did not care that people lived here. Governor Hanwoo Lee received the message from the Valorian fleet within minutes. The message was simple and brutal: surrender the colony immediately, or they would take it by force. The governor called an emergency meeting with his advisors. They debated for only a few minutes before making their decision. New Incheon was a human colony, protected by Earth's laws. They would not surrender to invaders. Governor Lee sent his reply to the Valorian fleet. His voice was steady and clear. New Incheon would not surrender. The colony was under Earth's protection, and the Valorians had no right to be here. He demanded they leave immediately. War Prefect Zenthor laughed when he heard the response. These humans were foolish. They had no military, no defenses worth mentioning. He would teach them a lesson about defying the Valorian Imperium. He gave the order to his fleet. Begin the bombardment. The first strikes came without mercy. Bright streaks of plasma fire fell from the sky like deadly rain. The colony's power stations exploded in massive fireballs. The spaceport where ships landed was destroyed in seconds. Communication towers toppled and burned. The Valorians were not trying to kill everyone. They wanted to break the colonists' will, to make them so afraid they would beg to surrender. Sirens wailed across New Incheon. People ran for shelter, parents clutching their children. Bora screamed for Doyun, running toward the fields where he had been playing. The sky above was filled with smoke and fire. Doyun and Kyuri heard the explosions and stopped playing. They looked up at the sky, confused and scared. They saw the bright lights falling from above and did not understand what was happening. Kyuri grabbed Doyun's hand. They needed to run home. They needed to find their parents. A Valorian strike fighter screamed through the atmosphere, chasing a civilian transport ship that was trying to escape. The fighter pilot locked his weapons and fired. The plasma bolt missed the transport and kept going. It struck the ground near the field where the children stood. The explosion was enormous. A ball of fire erupted, consuming everything in its path. Houses disintegrated. Trees were ripped from the ground. The shockwave spread outward like an invisible hammer. Kyuri was vaporized instantly. One moment she was there, holding Doyun's hand. The next moment she was gone. Nothing remained. Doyun was thrown backward by the blast. His small body tumbled through the air and crashed into the ground far from where he had been standing. The heat from the explosion burned his skin. His clothes caught fire. Pain flooded his entire body, but he could not scream. He could barely breathe. Bora found him minutes later. She was sobbing, crying out his name as she searched through the smoke and ash. When she saw her son lying motionless on the ground, her heart nearly stopped. His body was burned terribly. Blood covered his face. She dropped to her knees beside him and felt for a pulse. It was there, faint and weak, but he was alive. Medical teams arrived quickly, moving through the devastation to help the wounded. They placed Doyun on a stretcher and rushed him to the emergency medical center. The doctors worked desperately to save him. His burns covered 60% of his body. He had internal bleeding and severe trauma. The doctors did not know if he would survive the night. Captain Mirai Kang arrived in the system hours too late. Her ship, the Aegis, was a small defense frigate on routine patrol. When she received the distress call from New Incheon, she pushed her engines to maximum speed, but she was too far away. By the time she reached the colony, the bombardment had ended. Captain Mirai looked at the planet below and felt sick. Entire sections of the colony were burning. Smoke rose into the atmosphere. Her sensors detected thousands of life signs that had simply vanished. 3,000 people were dead. 20,000 more were injured. She took her ship down to the surface and coordinated the rescue efforts. Her crew worked alongside the colonists, pulling survivors from collapsed buildings and treating the wounded. Captain Mirai personally went to the medical center to check on the most critical patients. That was where she found Doyen. The boy lay on a medical bed, his small body wrapped in bandages. Machines beeped around him, keeping him alive. His mother sat beside him, holding his hand and whispering prayers. Captain Mirai stood in the doorway, unable to speak. This child was the same age as her nephew back on Earth. She took pictures. She recorded everything. This needed to be documented. Earth needed to see what the Valorians had done. The news reached Earth within a day. Every screen on the planet showed the images from New Incheon. People saw the smoking ruins. They saw the bodies being pulled from the wreckage. And they saw Doyen, a burned child fighting for his life in a hospital bed. The Galactic Council issued a formal protest. They called the attack regrettable and urged both sides to negotiate. But they took no real action. The Valorian Imperium was too powerful. Earth was too weak. The galaxy would not risk war to defend one human colony. But the galaxy did not know Earth's secret. Admiral Taejin Ro watched the footage alone in his office at Luna Command. His face was carved from stone, showing no emotion, but his hands gripped the armrests of his chair so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He had seen wars before. He had lost people he loved. But this was different. This was deliberate. This was an attack on innocence itself. He opened a secure channel and typed a single message to Earth's High Council. The message contained only 4 words. Activate Red Brand Protocol immediately. Within hours, Earth's leaders gathered in a hidden bunker deep underground. They watched the same footage that the rest of humanity had seen. They listened to the reports from New Incheon, and then they voted. The vote was unanimous. For 200 years, humanity had been preparing for this moment. They had built weapons in secret. They had trained soldiers in hidden bases. They had developed technology that the galaxy did not know existed. They had appeared weak on purpose, waiting for the day when someone would test them. The Valorian Imperium had chosen to test humanity by attacking a child. That was their fatal mistake. Earth's president addressed the High Council with cold certainty in her voice. The Valorians wanted to see what humanity was capable of. Now they would learn. Now they would understand what it meant to attack Earth's children. The order went out across encrypted channels. Hidden fleets began to move. Weapons were armed. Soldiers prepared for deployment. Humanity's hidden strength was about to be revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. The asteroid belt beyond Jupiter looked empty and lifeless. Chunks of rock drifted through the darkness, spinning slowly in the void. To anyone passing through, there was nothing special about this region of space. It appeared exactly as it should, cold and dead and forgotten. But appearances can be deceiving. Deep inside one of the largest asteroids, hidden behind layers of rock and metal, was a military base. The facility was enormous, carved into the heart of the asteroid over decades of secret construction. Thousands of people lived and worked inside, never seeing sunlight, dedicating their lives to a mission most of humanity did not know existed. This was Station Reckoning, the command center of the Red Brand Fleet. Fleet Admiral Sora Park stood in the command center, watching displays that showed star maps and ship positions. She was in her late 50s with silver streaks in her dark hair and eyes that had seen too much war. Her uniform was plain, without decoration. But everyone in the room knew who she was. She had commanded Red Brand for 15 years, training crews and preparing for a war she hoped would never come. That hope had died when she saw the images from New Incheon. The activation order had arrived an hour ago. 4 simple words that changed everything. Admiral Sora read the message 3 times, making sure she understood correctly. Then she began issuing commands. Officers moved quickly through the command center, pulling up data and preparing deployment plans. The machine they had built was coming to life. For 200 years, Earth had been playing a dangerous game. When humanity first made contact with alien civilizations, they learned an important lesson. The galaxy was filled with empires that took whatever they wanted. Species that appeared weak were conquered or destroyed. So Earth made a choice. They would appear weak while becoming strong. Human colonies were kept deliberately simple. Small populations, basic technology, minimal defenses. Earth's official military was tiny, barely enough to protect trade routes. Diplomats spoke softly and avoided conflict. The galaxy saw humanity as peaceful farmers and miners, too weak to be a threat. But while the galaxy watched Earth's public face, something else was being built in secret. Resources were diverted quietly. Brilliant scientists disappeared from public life to work on classified projects. Young men and women volunteered for military service and vanished into training programs their families knew nothing about. Massive construction projects took place in the outer solar system, hidden from sensors and satellites. The result was Red Brand, a ghost fleet. 8,000 warships hidden across the solar system and beyond. Each vessel was equipped with technology more advanced than anything the major powers possessed. The ships were faster, tougher, and deadlier than Valorian dreadnoughts or any other military force in known space. Admiral Sora walked through the hangar bay of Station Reckoning, looking at the ships docked there. Massive dreadnoughts capable of cracking planets, sleek destroyers designed for speed and precision, carriers that launched swarms of fighters. Every ship was crewed by volunteers who understood they might never see Earth again. They had trained in secret for years, some for decades, waiting for the day their service would be needed. That day had arrived. In a conference room deep inside the station, Director Jaewon Choi reviewed intelligence reports. He was the head of Red Brand's intelligence division, responsible for gathering information about potential threats. His network of spies and informants stretched across the galaxy. For decades, humans disguised as traders and diplomats had infiltrated alien governments and military organizations. They had mapped supply lines, identified key installations, and documented everything. Director Jaewon knew where every important Valorian military base was located. He knew how their fleets moved and where they refueled. He knew which systems were critical to their economy and which leaders made the important decisions. This information had taken 50 years to collect, and now it would be used. He pulled up a file on War Prefect Zenthor, the Valorian commander who had ordered the attack on New Incheon. The file was complete, detailing Zenthor's career, his habits, and his current location. The War Prefect was still at New Incheon, his flagship orbiting the planet while his troops looted what remained of the colony. Director Jaewon marked the target and sent the file to Admiral Sora. Zenthor would be the first. The weapons Red Brand had developed were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Kinetic rail cannons that launched metal slugs at 40% the speed of light. The projectiles had no engines, no heat signature, nothing that could be detected until impact. When they hit, they released energy equivalent to nuclear weapons. Shields could not stop them. Armor could not deflect them. Void missiles were another innovation. Each missile carried a miniature fusion drive and could chase targets across entire star systems. The warheads contained antimatter, the most destructive substance known. A single void missile could destroy a moon. Then there were the ghost drones. Small, fast, and completely invisible to most sensors. Each drone was controlled by an advanced artificial intelligence that could make decisions in combat. They could slip through enemy defenses undetected, plant explosives, or gather intelligence. The Valorians had never encountered anything like them. And finally, there were the stellar lances. Only 3 existed, mounted on massive battle stations hidden in deep space. Each lance could focus the energy from a star into a concentrated beam, capable of destroying entire fleets in seconds. The weapons required enormous amounts of power and took hours to charge, but their destructive potential was unmatched. Admiral Sora returned to the command center and addressed her senior officers. Her voice was calm and steady, the voice of someone who had prepared for this moment her entire career. The Valorian Imperium had attacked New Incheon without provocation. They had killed innocent civilians, including children. Earth had given them a chance to withdraw peacefully. The Valorians had refused. Now there would be consequences. The orders went out across encrypted channels. Ships began moving from their hidden positions throughout the solar system. Engines powered up silently. Weapons were armed and tested. Crews ran through final checks, preparing for combat. On Earth, governments prepared their populations for what was coming. The truth about Red Brand could not be hidden anymore. President Seo-hyun Lee addressed the planet in a broadcast seen by billions. She spoke calmly about the attack on New Incheon and the deaths of 3,000 colonists. She showed the images of Doyon lying in his hospital bed fighting for his life. Then she revealed the secret humanity had kept for 2 centuries. Earth was not defenseless. Earth had been preparing for this day, and now Earth would show the galaxy what happened to those who attacked its children. The reaction across Earth was mixed. Some people celebrated, proud that humanity had such power. Others were afraid of what war would bring. But everyone agreed on one thing. The Valorians had to pay for what they had done. Director Jaewon prepared one final message before the attack began. He wanted the Valorians to know why this was happening. He wanted them to understand their mistake. He compiled footage from New Incheon, showing the destroyed homes and the wounded children. He added images of Doyon in the hospital, his small body wrapped in bandages. Then he broadcast the message across all Valorian military channels. The message was simple. You hurt one of ours. Now we hurt all of yours. The Valorians received the message with confusion and amusement. Earth had no military worth mentioning. This was clearly a bluff, an attempt to frighten them into retreating. War Prefect Zenthor laughed when he saw the broadcast. These humans were desperate and foolish. He would teach them an even harsher lesson. Admiral Sora stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Dreadnought Reckoning. The ship was enormous, 3 times the size of the largest Valorian capital ship. Its hull was covered in armor plating meters thick. Its weapons could level cities. Around it, hundreds of other vessels moved into formation. She looked at a picture she had placed on her command console. It showed Doyon before the attack, smiling and holding a collection of smooth stones. The boy looked so small and innocent. He had done nothing to deserve what happened to him. Admiral Sora touched the picture gently. For him, she thought. For all of them. She gave the order. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading for New Incheon. War Prefect Zenthor was about to learn what it meant to attack humanity's children. The Red Brand fleet was coming, and there would be no mercy. War Prefect Zenthor sat on his command throne aboard the flagship Dominion's Wrath, watching his troops loot New Incheon colony below. Cargo ships carried away valuable minerals and equipment. The colonists who survived were being rounded up for questioning. Everything was proceeding according to plan. His fleet of 43 warships orbited the planet in defensive formation. Sensors scanned continuously for threats, but there was nothing to worry about. The nearest human military vessel was days away. Earth had no real navy, just a handful of patrol ships scattered across their territories. The Valorians owned this system now. Zenthor smiled, satisfied with his victory. The humans had learned their place. Soon the Imperium would control all of their colonies, and Earth itself would kneel before Valorian power. It was inevitable. Then his communications officer spoke, voice uncertain. They were receiving a message, sir. Source unknown. The signal was being broadcast on all frequencies. Zenthor frowned and ordered the message played. The screen flickered to life, showing a video. It was footage from New Incheon after the attack. Burning buildings, bodies being pulled from rubble, and then a child in a hospital bed, his small body wrapped in bandages, machines keeping him alive. Text appeared on the screen. You attacked a child. Prepare to die. Zenthor laughed. These humans were trying to intimidate him with emotional appeals. It was pathetic. He ordered his communications officer to ignore any further messages from Earth. They would not dignify such weakness with a response. 30 seconds later, every alarm on the bridge began screaming. The sensor officer stared at his displays in disbelief. Multiple contacts were appearing throughout the system. Dozens of ships. No, hundreds. They had appeared from nowhere, dropping out of hyperspace with perfect coordination. The signatures matched no known vessel class. The power readings were enormous. Zenthor jumped from his throne and moved to the tactical display. His eyes widened. The human fleet surrounding his position was massive, easily 3 times the size of his own. Where had these ships come from? Earth was not supposed to have a fleet. He opened his mouth to give orders, but explosions erupted across his fleet before he could speak. Several of his warships simply disintegrated, their shields collapsing and their hulls rupturing. Others spun out of control as critical systems failed. Zenthor watched in horror as 12 of his capital ships became floating wrecks in less than 30 seconds. What was happening? How were the humans attacking? His sensors showed no weapons fire, no missiles, nothing. Just his ships dying. Lieutenant Daehyun Kim piloted his ghost drone through the Valorian fleet, invisible to their sensors. His drone was one of 300 that had infiltrated the enemy formation before the main fleet arrived. The drones were tiny, fast, and completely undetectable. Each carried enough explosives to destroy a ship's critical systems. Daehyun had attached his charges to the shield generator of a Valorian battleship. Now he triggered them remotely and watched the explosion bloom across his screen. The battleship's shields failed instantly. It was now vulnerable to the attack that was about to begin. He moved to his next target, guiding his drone with practiced precision. Around him, the other ghost drones were doing the same. Within minutes, every Valorian ship had been sabotaged. Their shields were down, their communications were jammed, and their targeting systems were feeding them false data. The Valorians were blind and defenseless. They just did not know it yet. Captain Young Jae Shin commanded the destroyer Relentless, one of 50 destroyers in the second wave. His ship was armed with kinetic rail cannons, weapons that could punch through any armor. He watched his tactical display as the ghost drones finished their work, waiting for the order to fire. Admiral Sora's voice came through his communicator, calm and clear. "All ships, you are cleared to engage. Target their weapons and engines. We want prisoners." Young Jae gave the order to his weapons officer. "Fire." The rail cannon launched a tungsten slug at 40% the speed of light. The projectile was invisible, traveling so fast that nothing could track it. It struck the Valorian battleship exactly where Young Jae had aimed, penetrating the hull and destroying the main reactor. The ship died instantly, power failing across all systems. Across the battlefield, 49 other destroyers fired at the same moment. 49 more Valorian ships were crippled in the blink of an eye. The Valorian fleet was being torn apart, and they still had not seen what was killing them. Zenthor screamed orders at his crew, demanding they return fire. His weapons officer tried to lock onto the human ships, but the targeting system was not working. The sensors showed false readings. Ships appeared in multiple locations at once. The computer could not determine which targets were real. Another explosion rocked the Dominion's wrath. Something had hit them amidships, tearing through 3 decks and venting them to space. Alarms wailed. Crew members were sucked into the void before emergency bulkheads could close. Zenthor grabbed onto his throne to keep from being thrown across the bridge. His damage control officer reported that they had lost main power. Life support was on backup systems. Weapons were offline. They were dead in space. Zenthor activated his emergency communicator and sent a distress signal to Valorian High Command. They were under attack by an unknown force. The fleet was being destroyed. He needed immediate reinforcements. The response came back within seconds. "Identify your attackers." Zenthor hesitated, then replied, "Humans." There was a long pause. Then he heard laughter on the other end of the transmission. "Humans have no fleet," the voice said. "You must be hallucinating." The transmission cut off. Zenthor stared at the dead communicator, his mind refusing to process what had just happened. High Command did not believe him. They thought he was lying or crazy. He looked at the tactical display, watching his fleet die ship by ship. This was real. This was happening. The third wave arrived like thunder. Admiral Sora's flagship Reckoning emerged from hyperspace, surrounded by carrier groups that immediately began launching fighters. The dreadnought was massive, dwarfing every other ship in the system. Its weapons powered up, targeting the remaining Valorian vessels. Some Valorian ships attempted to flee. They turned and burned their engines at maximum power, trying to reach the edge of the system where they could jump to hyperspace. Void missiles pursued them relentlessly. The missiles were fast and intelligent, adjusting their course to match every evasive maneuver. One by one, the fleeing ships were caught and destroyed. 16 Valorian warships were completely destroyed. 23 more were crippled and drifting. The remaining 4 ships surrendered, transmitting their compliance on all frequencies. The battle had lasted 40 minutes. Admiral Sora ordered boarding teams to secure the surviving Valorian vessels. Human Marines in powered armor crossed the void, entering the disabled ships through airlocks and hull breaches. They moved through corridors filled with smoke and floating debris, weapons ready. Captain Mireille Kang led the boarding team onto the Dominion's Wrath. She had requested this assignment personally. She wanted to see the man who had ordered the attack on New Incheon. She wanted to look him in the eyes. Her team found Zenthor on the bridge, still clinging to his throne. His uniform was torn and burned. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead. He looked up as the humans entered, his eyes filled with fear and hatred. Captain Mireille walked up to him slowly, her armored boots echoing on the metal floor. She reached out and grabbed him by the collar, pulling him to his feet. Zenthor tried to pull away, but her strength in the powered armor was far greater than his. "You killed 3,000 people," she said quietly. One of them was a 7-year-old girl named Kiuri. She had her whole life ahead of her. Zenthor spat at her feet. "The Imperium will destroy you for this. Your world will burn." Captain Mireille looked at him for a long moment. Then she spoke words that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. "You attacked a child. That was your mistake. Now you will face justice." She turned and ordered her team to take him into custody. Zenthor was dragged from his bridge in chains, screaming threats and curses. Nobody paid attention. Director Jaewon watched the battle from Station Reckoning, recording everything. The footage would be broadcast across the galaxy. Every government, every news network, every citizen would see what happened when someone attacked humanity's children. The message was clear. Earth was not defenseless. Earth was not weak. And Earth would not forgive those who harmed innocents. On New Incheon, in a hospital room, Doyen stirred in his sleep. His mother sat beside him, holding his hand. She had just received news of the battle. The people responsible were being brought to justice. Her tears fell silently as she squeezed her son's hand. They had won. Somehow they had won. The news of New Incheon reached the Valorian capital world of Primus Valor within hours. Grand Imperator Valkyris sat on his throne in the Imperial Palace, reading the battle reports with growing disbelief. 43 warships destroyed or captured. War Prefect Zenthor taken prisoner. The entire fleet obliterated in less than an hour. This was impossible. Earth was a minor power with no significant military. Intelligence reports confirmed this repeatedly. Yet somehow they had built a massive fleet in complete secrecy and deployed it with devastating effectiveness. Valkyris summoned his military advisors. They gathered in the war room, standing around a holographic display showing the battle. The Grand Imperator demanded answers. How did this happen? Where did the humans get such technology? Why did intelligence agencies fail to detect this threat? Nobody had answers. The intelligence chief stammered excuses. The humans must have help from another power. Perhaps the Thalasian Commonwealth provided ships. Or maybe Earth discovered ancient technology and reverse-engineered it. Valkyris silenced them with a gesture. He did not care about excuses. The Valorian Imperium had been humiliated. If they did not respond with overwhelming force, other species would see them as weak. Rebellions would spread across the Empire. Their grip on power would crumble. He gave the order. Mobilize the Grand Armada. Every available warship would be assembled into one massive fleet. They would travel to Earth and destroy the human homeworld completely. No mercy, no negotiation. Humanity would be made an example that the galaxy would never forget. Within days, 300,000 Valorian warships began gathering at Primus Valor. The fleet was enormous, blocking out the stars. It represented the full military might of an empire that had conquered 47,000 systems. Surely no force in the galaxy could stand against such power. The Grand Armada would take 20 days to reach Earth. During that journey, they would be unstoppable. Or so Valkyris believed. Earth did not wait for the Armada to arrive. Admiral Tajin and Admiral Sora developed a strategy based on a simple principle. The best defense is a good offense. Instead of preparing to defend Earth, they would attack the Valorians across multiple fronts simultaneously. They would cripple the Empire's ability to wage war before the Grand Armada could reach human space. Red Brand fleets spread out across Valorian territory, striking targets that Director Jaewon's intelligence network had identified, shipyards where warships were constructed, supply depots that fed the Imperial military, industrial centers that produced weapons and equipment. Every target was chosen to inflict maximum damage to the Valorian war machine. Captain Youngjay led the assault on the Kessler Yards, the largest shipbuilding facility in Valorian space. His fleet approached from multiple vectors, using stealth technology to avoid detection until the last moment. When they struck, it was with overwhelming firepower. Void missiles launched from extreme range, crossing millions of kilometers in minutes. Each missile tracked a specific target with perfect accuracy. The shipyards exploded in brilliant flashes of light as antimatter warheads detonated. 12 capital ships under construction were destroyed. The massive orbital facilities broke apart and fell toward the planet below. 50 Valorian defense ships tried to stop the attack. They were obliterated by kinetic rail cannon fire before they could get within weapons range. Captain Youngjay's fleet suffered 0 losses. Commander Hyawan Beck specialized in guerrilla warfare. Her squadron consisted of fast frigates and ghost drones perfect for hit-and-run attacks. She targeted Valorian supply convoys, the logistics network that kept their military functioning. Her tactics were brutal in their efficiency. Appear from nowhere, destroy the convoy, disappear before reinforcements arrived. She struck 30 different convoys in 10 days, destroying hundreds of supply ships, fuel, ammunition, food, medical supplies. Everything the Grand Armada needed for its journey to Earth was being systematically eliminated. In one engagement, Hyawan's squadron ambushed a convoy of 30 ships carrying fusion fuel. 28 were destroyed. The remaining 2 were captured intact, their crews taken prisoner. Director Jawan's teams reprogrammed the ships and sent them back toward Valorian space, broadcasting false intelligence about human fleet positions. The misinformation caused 3 Valorian battle groups to waste days searching empty systems. Director Jawan unleashed another weapon against the Valorians. Cyber warfare. Human hackers infiltrated military networks across the Empire, causing chaos. Ships received orders to report to the wrong systems. Friendly fire incidents occurred as targeting systems were corrupted. In one spectacular success, 2 Valorian fleets engaged each other for 6 hours before realizing their mistake. Jawan also spread disinformation designed to create paranoia within the Valorian leadership. False reports suggested that Earth had formed secret alliances with other galactic powers. Rumors spread that Valorian admirals were planning coups. Several high-ranking officers were executed for suspected treason, further destabilizing the military command structure. The Grand Armada began its journey toward Earth, but the trip was nothing like what Valkoris had planned. Human fleets harassed them constantly, attacking from long range and disappearing before the Valorians could respond. Ghost drones infiltrated formations, planting explosives and sabotaging critical systems. Ships vanished from sensor screens, never to be seen again. Admiral Zenthar commanded the Armada's advance fleet. He was responsible for clearing the path ahead and ensuring safe passage for the main force. Instead, his ships were being picked off one by one. He saw attacks everywhere, shadows on sensors that turned out to be nothing, real threats that appeared too late to stop. His paranoia grew with each passing day. Zenthar ordered his fleet into tighter formations for mutual protection. This made the Armada slower and created perfect targets for human long-range weapons. More ships were lost. Morale collapsed. Crews whispered that humans were supernatural beings who could not be defeated. By the time the Grand Armada reached the halfway point of its journey, 40,000 ships had been destroyed or disabled. The Valorians had not won a single engagement. They had barely seen the enemy. The Galactic Council watched events unfold with growing alarm. Ambassador Minya An addressed the Council, speaking calmly about Earth's position. Humanity had not started this war. The Valorian Imperium attacked first, killing innocent civilians. Earth was defending itself and would continue to do so until the Valorians surrendered. Other powers began reconsidering their stance. The Thalasian Commonwealth offered covert support to Earth, providing intelligence on Valorian movements. Several smaller nations declared neutrality, refusing to aid the Imperium. The galactic balance of power was shifting. On Earth, casualties were mourned. Captain Youngjay's destroyer, Relentless, was heavily damaged during a raid, forcing the crew to evacuate. 12 ships from Commander Haiwan's squadron were lost in a botched ambush. Every death hurt. Every loss was felt deeply, but humanity's resolve never wavered. Memorial services were held for the fallen. Their names were carved into monuments, and the war continued. Admiral Sora broadcast a message to all Red Brand forces. We fight so that no other child suffers like Doyen. We are humanity's shield. Hold the line. For Earth, for the future. In a hospital on Earth, Doyen continued his recovery. The burns were healing, but the nightmares remained. He woke screaming Curie's name, remembering the explosion that took her away. His mother held him close, whispering that the people responsible would face justice. Doyen had become a symbol. His face appeared on broadcasts across Earth and her colonies. He represented why the war was being fought. Not for conquest or glory, but for protection, for justice. Grand Imperator Valkorus watched his empire crumble. Supply lines were destroyed. Industrial capacity was crippled. The military was demoralized and suffering massive losses. He had underestimated humanity catastrophically. He attempted to negotiate, broadcasting a message offering reparations and complete withdrawal from human space. The response from Admiral Tajin was cold and final. Negotiation ended when you fired on New Incheon. Now there is only surrender or annihilation. Valkorus had no choice. He ordered the Grand Armada to accelerate, accepting higher losses in a desperate attempt to reach Earth before his empire collapsed entirely. The fleet pushed forward, leaving disabled ships behind, abandoning the wounded, doing anything to maintain speed. They were running out of time. The Valorian Imperium was dying, and Earth's fleets were the executioners. Admiral Sora stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking at tactical displays showing the approaching armada. They were coming to Earth with everything they had left. 180,000 ships battered and desperate. She gave orders for the final preparations. Every defense station was armed. Every fleet was positioned. Earth's allies were ready. The trap was set, let them come, she said quietly. The Grand Armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. 180,000 ships, all that remained of the 300,000 that began the journey. Admiral Zenthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the blue marble of Earth in the distance. They had finally arrived. His sensors began detecting human forces immediately. Ships everywhere, thousands of them, orbital stations bristling with weapons, asteroid bases with rail cannons pointed outward, minefields spanning millions of kilometers. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a fortress. Zenthar felt a cold fear settle in his stomach. This was not going to be easy. Admiral Tajin commanded Earth's defense from Luna Base, coordinating fleets across the entire system. Every planet had defenders. Every moon was fortified. Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, all protected by overlapping fields of fire. The Valorians would have to fight through everything to reach Earth. Admiral Sora's flagship Reckoning held position near Earth, leading the final defensive line. If the Valorians somehow broke through everything else, they would face her. She would not let them reach the planet. A single message broadcast across all frequencies. For Doyen, for Curie, for every innocent you have harmed. This ends now. The Grand Armada advanced slowly, moving deeper into the Sol system. They encountered the first minefield within an hour. Thousands of mines, each containing antimatter warheads. The Valorians tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. Explosions rippled through their formation. 15,000 ships were destroyed before they cleared the field. Human fleets attacked from all sides. Fast destroyers firing rail cannons from extreme range. Ghost drones planting explosives on critical systems. Fighter swarms overwhelming point defenses. The Valorians fought back desperately, but they were exhausted from their journey. Their supplies were depleted. Their morale was broken. Admiral Zenthar ordered his fleet to tighten formation and push forward. They had to reach Earth. It was their only chance. If they could threaten the human homeworld, perhaps Earth would negotiate. The Armada fought its way past Jupiter, losing 20,000 more ships. They passed Mars, leaving another 30,000 disabled wrecks in their wake. The path to Earth was open now. Just a few more hours. Then Admiral Tajin revealed humanity's final weapon. Hidden in orbit around Saturn was a battle station called Helios. It had been constructed in absolute secrecy over 50 years. The station's purpose was singular. It mounted a stellar lance, a weapon capable of focusing the sun's energy into a devastating beam. The lance had been charging for hours, drawing energy from the sun itself. Now it was ready. The beam fired. A lance of pure energy crossed the solar system in seconds. It struck the center of the Grand Armada with the force of a star. 50,000 Valorian ships simply ceased to exist, vaporized instantly. The shockwave from the blast disabled another 20,000. The Armada's formation shattered completely. Admiral Zenthar's flagship was caught in the edge of the blast. His bridge exploded around him. He had time for one final thought before the fire consumed him. We should never have attacked that child. The surviving Valorian ships broke and ran. Some tried to flee back the way they came. Others pushed forward toward Earth in desperation. All of them were hunted down. Human fleets showed no mercy. This was justice for New Incheon. One group of Valorian capital ships made it close to Earth's orbit. They were met by Admiral Sora and the Reckoning. The dreadnought's weapons lit up the darkness. Her rail cannons fired continuously, each shot destroying a target. Her void missiles pursued fleeing vessels. Her fighter squadrons overwhelmed enemy defenses. Captain Mirai led boarding teams onto the surviving Valorian ships. Her marines fought through corridors and compartments, securing prisoners and shutting down reactors. It was brutal work but necessary. The battle lasted 8 hours. When it ended, fewer than 10,000 Valorian ships remained intact. All of them surrendered. The Grand Armada was annihilated. While the battle raged in Seoul, Director J1 launched simultaneous attacks on the Valorian homeworld. Human fleets that had been held in reserve suddenly appeared in Valorian space. The planet's orbital defenses were overwhelmed in minutes. The shipyards above Primus Valor exploded spectacularly. Grand Imperator Valkorus tried to flee the planet in his personal yacht. Human fighters intercepted him before he reached orbit. His ship was disabled and boarded. Valkorus was taken into custody without a fight. He was brought before Admiral Tajan on Luna Base, standing in chains before the man who had orchestrated his defeat. Tajan looked at him for a long moment before speaking. "You attacked a child. Now face the consequences." Admiral Sora broadcast the end of the war across the galaxy. The Valorian Grand Armada was destroyed. The Imperium's military was shattered. Primus Valor was under human occupation. The Valorian Empire had fallen. The Galactic Council convened emergency sessions. Other powers, terrified by humanity's display of force, rushed to offer treaties and alliances. Earth's status changed overnight from minor colony to galactic superpower. Nobody would underestimate humanity again. War Prefect Zenthor and Grand Imperator Valkorus were tried before an international tribunal. Both were found guilty of crimes against sentient life. Zenthor was executed by firing squad. Valkorus was sentenced to life imprisonment, forced to watch as the empire he built was dismantled. Earth's leaders debated what to do with the Valorian territories. Admiral Tajan argued for annexation. President Seo-Hyun Lee proposed a different path. The Valorian military would be dismantled, but the people would be given autonomy. "We fought for justice, not empire," she said. The decision was made. Valorian worlds would be demilitarized and granted independence under Galactic Council oversight. Earth would not become conquerors. They would be protectors. New Incheon was rebuilt better than before. A memorial was erected in the center of the capital, listing the names of everyone who died in the attack. Curie's name was carved in stone alongside 3,000 others. Doyon visited the memorial with his mother on the day it was dedicated. He stood before Curie's name holding flowers. Tears ran down his face as he remembered his friend. She would never grow up, never have adventures, never see the stars. His mother knelt beside him, placing her hand on his shoulder. "Because of you we won," she whispered. "You gave us a reason to fight." The Red Brand fleet was revealed to the public. No longer secret, its crews were celebrated as heroes across Earth and her colonies. Admiral Sora retired, her mission complete. She visited Doyon in the hospital before leaving military service. She presented him with a medal, the Star of Valor. "You gave us a reason to fight," she told him. "Never forget that." Red Brand ships were integrated into Earth's official military, now the most advanced force in the galaxy. Other powers requested alliances, eager to learn from humanity's tactics and technology. Humanity took its place on the Galactic Council as leaders, not observers. Ambassador Minhya-an delivered a speech defining Earth's role. "We will defend the innocent, oppose tyranny, and ensure no empire repeats the mistakes of the Valorian Imperium. This is humanity's promise." The galaxy entered a new era. Trade agreements flourished. Cultural exchanges increased. Mutual defense pacts were signed. Earth became a beacon for oppressed species, proof that even the smallest could challenge the mightiest. Years passed. Doyon grew into a young man, carrying scars both visible and invisible. He graduated from the Earth Defense Academy at the top of his class. During his graduation speech, he spoke words that would be remembered. "I was 8 when they attacked. I lost my friend. I almost lost my life, but I learned something. Humanity is strongest when we protect each other. I will spend my life ensuring no child ever suffers what I did. He kept that promise. Captain Doyen served with distinction, commanding his own ship by age 30. He patrolled the borders, protected colonies, and defended the innocent. He carried Kyuri's memory with him always. On his ship's bridge, he kept a collection of smooth stones from New Inchin, the same stones he and Curie had collected that terrible day. They reminded him why he served, why he fought. The Valorian War became a turning point in galactic history. It taught every power the same lesson. Humanity could be peaceful. Humanity could be patient. But hurt their children and humanity would show you what true war meant. Earth never forgot the cost. Tens of thousands died in the war, but they had won. They had protected their future. And they had sent a message to the galaxy that would echo for generations. Attack our children, and we will end you. Completely, absolutely, without mercy. On New Inchin, children played in fields where battles had been fought. They laughed and dreamed and reached for the stars. They grew up in peace because others had fought for it. They were safe because humanity had proven its strength, and somewhere on a ship patrolling the outer reaches, Captain Doyen looked at the stars and smiled. His mother's words echoed in his memory. You gave us a reason to fight. He touched the smooth stones on his console. No, Curie, you did.